It can be a bit confusing and overwhelming with all these different sleep terms. So, first of all, can you clarify for us when it comes to sleep with babies? What are these different approaches? What are these names and what do they even mean?
Thanks for asking me that, Sanchita, because you're right. There's a lot of confusion around what does sleep training really mean and what does gentle sleep really mean, because these can mean different things to different people. Sleep training, if we go by the definition of what is being used by researchers that are like right into this whole infant sleep science, is they define sleep training as a process of helping your child how to learn to sleep independently. And that means without needing the rocking, nursing, patting, and majority of the time, sleep trained babies are sleeping in their own cribs or own beds. So this is the sleep training part of it. The gentle sleep part of it is you are still assisting your child to sleep in some or the other way. And what you're doing is that you're working more towards just optimizing your child's sleep without using any behavioral techniques. So this is what gentle sleep kind of entails overall.
So, when you mention what both mean, for me as a parent, I suddenly am gravitating more towards the gentle sleep because it sounds gentle. And when you're saying sleep training, it sounds a little bit rigid. So, as a new parent, wouldn't most of us just want to go ahead with this gentle approach because it just seems it's so much more easier for the parent and the baby?
Actually, you make a lot of sense, especially in Indian families. Sleep training is never our default. Unlike a lot of the families in the US, in Australia, where sleep training is a rite of passage. Like the baby turns 4 or 5 months old, they do sleep training. Everybody does it, whether or not the child is facing sleep issues in the first place. In Indian families, on the other hand, majority of us are trying to work with gentle sleep methods and then seeing are they really having an impact on the child's sleep or does the sleep continue to be just as bad. Then we gravitate towards and start exploring sleep training. But really, the biggest difference that I want parents to know between sleep training and gentle sleep is using the example of a soothing ladder. All right. So I want you to envision that when you are trying to settle a child to sleep, okay, there is this soothing ladder in which at the top of the ladder is the most amount of support that you can provide to a child, which honestly is feeding to sleep. Whether you're bottle feeding or breastfeeding, feeding to sleep is the highest level of support you can provide because you are providing the sucking to soothe association, you're holding them, there's some movement involved, and that is right at the top of the ladder. When you come one step lower without the feeding, if you just do rocking, that is one step lower. One step lower than that is contact sleep, whether you could be patting them or just holding them. One step lower is just verbal reassurance, where you could be singing or shushing to them. A step lower than that is just presence, where you just need to be present in the same room as your child while they're falling asleep. And then the last and the bottommost step is independent sleep. Now, when you look at content of a lot of sleep consultants, let's say, who are following the gentle sleep approach, many of them are still talking about how to come down this soothing ladder. Okay, many of them are talking about, okay, how can we stop feeding to sleep? Or if you would like to stop rocking to sleep, then how do you go about it? And sleep training consultants are talking about the exact same thing. So then what's the difference? Honestly, it comes down to the pace at which you come down this ladder. When it comes to sleep training, you are right. We do follow such certain behavioral modification methods that makes us come down the ladder rather quickly. To go from feeding to sleep to absolutely at the bottom of the ladder, independent sleep, this can happen in a matter of 3 days. 3 to 5 days is typically what it takes for a baby to really adapt to sleep training. And it is possible and it has no negative impact on the baby. However, the reality is that when you come down this ladder that quickly, it is going to be a steep learning curve for the baby. And when there's a steep learning curve, you can imagine they are going to be upset about it. They are going to protest and say, no, I would rather be fed to sleep. I would rather be rocked to sleep. But it subsides very quickly. And this protesting will come out in the form of tears. Okay, which is why one of the key differences between sleep training and the gentle sleep approach is that in sleep training, there is definitely more crying involved. Now, this crying is very short term. Don't mistake me on the fact that this crying has to last for year, months and months or weeks on end. It is very short term, it's just a few days, but there is more crying involved. On the other hand, with gentle sleep, You are coming down this ladder, going from feeding to sleep to rocking to sleep to contact sleep. You're doing this slowly. You could be doing this over a matter of few days or weeks or even months. And you completely take your baby's lead in this. You try to introduce a small change, see if they're okay with it. If they are not, you go back up the ladder and you keep going this back and forth and you really slowly climb down this ladder. That's why it's more of a gentle sleep approach. In this approach, you typically don't face a lot of tears. And even if you do, it's very short term and it's very mild levels of tears. I don't think that gentle sleep approach is a completely tear free approach, but still, we know that in the gentle sleep approach, you will definitely face lesser crying. So I hope, Sanjita, that answers your question in terms of you're right that nobody wants their baby to cry. And that's why the gentle sleep approach somehow just seems more lucrative. It seems more preferable. But the problem is that it's also something that a parent needs to be very, very patient with. They need to understand that this can take a long time. And if you're at the brink of exhaustion, you're at the brink of just, breaking down under the pressure of sleep deprivation, then sleep training can suddenly start to seem a lot more lucrative.
Right. So the goal is the same, that eventually we want our kids to sleep on their own. But how you get there, how fast you get there, depends on which method you choose.